Hey guys, my name is Kirsty. Welcome back to Upside Down Books. Today we're going to be looking at some recent reads.
Non più tra i farfalloni amorosi.
Got a bit of a dim lighting situation happening because it is horrible weather outside today and fully overcast, and therefore I don't have any lights or anything, so we're just going to roll with the slight dimness. I have a pretty disappointing little list of books to get through today. This is going to be essentially my wrap up for August, and I had an abysmal reading month in August. It was terrible. I didn't even realize how bad it was until September came around and I realized I'd only read three books. And it wasn't even an excessively busy month. It just, reading did not happen in August. So here we are with a 3-book wrap up, and sort of only one of them was actually good. So I'm really hoping that September is going to be a little bit more promising than August was. I've certainly started off with a much better book for September, so I'm hoping that puts me on the right foot, but we're just going to have a look at the 3 that I did read in August and talk about why it was so disappointing. One day I'll read 20 books in a month and I will be able to die happy, but August was not that month. The first book I picked up was actually an ARC that I got sent about 2 years ago. So I'm a relatively bad person for only getting around to that now, and that was actually Unearthed by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, and I didn't like it. This is my least favourite book for the year so far. Truth be told, I haven't heard that many good things, or that many things full stop, about Unearthed. It seems to have been a bit of an underwhelming book, but this was just lackluster is my tagline for it. I didn't enjoy it, it was very childish, the plot was super predictable, and the characters were boring. They were just... It had a really cool concept, and it's been advertised as Lara Croft meets Indiana Jones in space, and that is really overselling it, because it is not that at all. It's just like a YA contemporary set in space. I rated this one a 2 out of 5 stars. And I was really disappointed that I didn't like it. It took me a little while to get through because I didn't find it super enthralling, and I very nearly DNF'd it. I didn't want to though, I really wanted to get to the end of it and find out what it was all about, but this book essentially follows 2 characters. First one called Amelia, and she's a scavenger, and she kind of gets her way illegally onto this new planet, which is unimaginatively called Gaia, and there's supposed to be a temple from this alien race that sent them a message that they've decoded, and there's going to be wealth for humanity because Earth is dying, yada yada yada, just the usual, and there's enough resources on Earth. So they're hoping to find that on this planet. So she's going there to try and get enough money to help her sister. And then there's Jules, who is a really naive character and probably the only part of this book that kept me reading, and he is part of an official mission to document things and what have you, and they just sort of end up getting tied together in this little mission, get into all sorts of trouble, and a lot of the story takes place in a temple where it should have been like Indiana Jones, where they're faced with challenges and different things to get through different parts of the temple, but it was so boring and like really repetitive, the kind of stuff they were doing. There was nothing new or interesting that either of the authors had imagined for like booby traps and stuff. It was very stock standard, and the insta romance that happens between the two was so unnecessary, and I felt really didn't do the story any favours. So didn't love this one. Thank you, Alan Nunwin, for sending me a copy of this 2 years ago, and I do feel bad that I didn't get around to it then, but I'm glad that I didn't taint its release date with my bad review, because 2 stars is very, very low for me. So I honestly, I wouldn't recommend this book. There are way better fish in the sea. The second book that I read in August was the only book that I liked during August, and I loved it, and it was Catherine Rundell's latest book, The Good Thieves, and this was sent to me by Bloomsbury, so thank you so much for sending this to me. I have just put my full review up on my blog, so you can go and check that out. I will link that down below, so you can see all of my full thoughts on why this is so good. I love Catherine Rundell's writing. I think I've read just about all of her books now. I started with The Wolf Wilder, which is a Russian sort of almost fairy tale feeling story that's just beautiful, and if you haven't read her stuff yet, you're really missing out. I felt very childish reading this on the train on the way to work because there are illustrations at the start of every chapter, but I soldiered on. And I'm pretty sure I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars, 4.5 out of 5 stars, somewhere around there. I loved this. It's all about this young girl and her mother, and they It's set just after World War II. The young girl has long-term ailments from having polio as a child, so she has a gimpy leg, I can't remember which one it is, and so she has a limp and struggles a little bit being in pain. And her mum's dad, her grandfather, has been conned out of his house, which is essentially an old castle. It's this old family that runs all the way back and he inherited it, and this tycoon has tricked him out of his house with a bit of a sneaky deal. And when our main character, Vita, finds out about this, she is so angered by the injustice of it that she gets together a ragtag group of children from the streets from a local circus, and they go and do this massive heist mission, like these 10-year-olds, to steal back the castle. And it's so much fun because it's just an explosion of innocence wrapped up in a wonderful adventure, and I could not recommend this enough. If you have not read it, or if you've not even heard of Catherine Rundell yet, this is out, so you can go and buy this now. I think this came out last month, or in July. The last book that I read, I didn't dislike as much as Unearthed, but I was just so confused how I was supposed to feel coming out of it, and that was Church of Marvels by Leslie Parry, and I was really gutted that this wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I got this book at Christmas. I am on track for my reading goals. I have 2-3 more books to read until I have read all of the books that I received at Christmas, which is a total of 12, and I have never done this well. Most of the time these books go unread for years and years and years, so I'm really proud of myself. But this one was not quite as much about a circus as I thought it was going to be. It has 3 main plot lines and they're all intermingled together. It's historical fiction, it's sort of set in New York, and it's a bit of a mystery, and there are so many curious things going on that were quite intense. Our main character Odile is a twin, and her sister Belle just leaves one day. So they're part of the circus group. Their mother was the ringleader of the circus, and she dies in this fire, and that's sort of where the story kicks off from. Her sister then mysteriously disappears and goes to Manhattan. They live on Coney Island, and Odile is like, if she hasn't come back, she hasn't written any letters, I'm going to go and try and find her. That's Odile's story. And then we have a man who is a night soiler, so basically he cleans out the outside drop toilets. I don't even know what those are called. The toilets outside back in the day. Really gross. His name is Sylvan, and when he is scooping out all the muck, and he keeps an eye out for any treasures, because sometimes you find things that have been discarded down the toilet, he finds a baby who is alive. And so he has this baby, and his manager essentially tells him to just put it back and leave it because they can't deal with that responsibility, but he secretly keeps the child, and it becomes his mission to work out who the mother is and to bring it back to a good home. Then we have another character called Alfie, who is in an asylum, and she is a bit of she wasn't exactly a prostitute, but she was right down there on the streets, and this man has sort of fallen in love with her and married her into a good home. Like, he was from a good home and he married her and made her life better, but then something has happened and she can't quite remember because of the trauma of what happened, and she's found herself in this asylum. So all of these stories are linked together, and it's a really, 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 really good mystery. It was just really boring to read. Once you got past the 50% mark, it was a lot better, but the first part of the book, and especially Sylvan's chapters, are so boring. They're so boring. So I think this is worth reading if you think it's going to be interesting. It's obviously not a very long book to read. It has a good ending, bringing everything together. I think the one thing I didn't like about the whole story in total was that at the very end of the book we get an epilogue to explain what actually happened, and the only time I have enjoyed getting an epilogue like that is in an Agatha Christie book, because it was so clever that she had to explain it. But I feel like in these sort of books, when you have to put an epilogue in to explain what the actual story was, I'm like, what was the point of reading the book? I should have just read the epilogue and I would have got just as much enjoyment out of it. So, not my cup of tea. This was a 3 out of 5 star read for me, and I'm glad it's done. And it bogged me down for like 2 weeks trying to get through it, but we're moving on to brighter horizons. So these were the only 3 books that I read in August, a pretty miserable reading month, if I might say so myself. I am so looking forward to my September reading stack, because I have so many arcs in the wings that I cannot wait to get around to. I've bought a few books that I'm really excited about, which I will talk to you coming soon in my book haul video, and I can't wait. So I'm hoping that September we will see another 7 or so books read. That would be ideal. But that is all I have for you today, so let me know in the comments below if you have read any of these, and I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.